Hi everyone, welcome to Cyberblog. I'm Cyber Settler, and today we are talking about what's going wrong with the world. So, since 2016, uh, we have the impression that the world has been going downhill pretty fast. So, why is this? We are seeing like all these uh, demagogues, politicians, uh, taking control, and all these like culture war and all these hyper commercialization of stuff, and all this degradation of the environment going on. So I was wondering what can explain such a trend, even though it's not new. um, but what came to my mind was idiocracy. And Idiocracy is a 2006 American science fiction comedy film directed by Mike Judge and co-written by Judge and Elan Cohen, starring Luke Wilson, Maya Rudolph, and Dax Shepard. It follows an American soldier who takes part in a classified hibernation experiment, only to be accidentally frozen for too long and awaken 500 years later in a dystopian world where commercialism has run rampant, mankind has embraced anti-intellectualism, and society is devoid of such traits as intellectual curiosity, social responsibility, justice, and human rights. So, if this sounds familiar, welcome to the club. So, this film was released in 2006, and this film was made, I think, in the context of George W. Bush, and of course, he was famously or infamously known as a dumb politician. But really, his successor Trump takes the prize, right? So, but what seems to be happening is that this anti-intellectualism has gotten stronger, and this lack of critical thinking by the public is more evident. Is You see people like just believing what others tell them through social media, with any without any critical thinking at all. So it's very worrying, and the question is if there is some uh, scientific or empirical evidence that we are in some sort of decline, or human civilization decline. And I have some bad news for you, because there is some evidence that we are going through some sort of degenerative process in society, or in human civilization, or the human species in general. So here we have this article, um, Dehumanization, Shrinking Brain and Hippocampus. And in this article, it's claimed that the Cro-Magnons, who left cave paintings of large animals in the monumental Lascaux cave more than 17,000 years ago, were the Homo sapiens with the biggest brain. So, Cro-Magnon, that lived more than 70,000 years ago, had a bigger brain. The average size brain of modern humans, Homo sapiens, that's us, has decreased about 10%, the size of a tennis ball during that period. So in this article, it's claimed that human brain size have been decreasing compared to our ancestors, the Cro-Magnons. This other article from John Hawkes of the Department of Anthropology of the University of Wisconsin Madison says the following. Less well known is that the terminal Pleistocene and Holocene, circa 30,000 years ago to present, witnessed a substantial decline in endocranial volume. This decrease occurred within modern Homo sapiens and has been observed in many parts of the world. The scope of this decrease is remarkable. For example, within the past 10,000 years, the average endocranial volume in European females reduced from a mean of 1,502 milliliters to a recent value of 1,241 milliliters. This decrease of approximately 240 milliliters in 10,000 years is nearly 36 times the rate of increase during the previous 800,000 years. So this is remarkable, that we have such a decrease in brain volume, right? And there seems to be solid empirical evidence that this is the case, that human brain has been decreasing. But of course, brain size is not everything. Like, brain size is not a there's no one-to-one relationship between brain size and intelligence, for example, because the argument could be made that since human brain has been decreasing, then we are becoming more stupid. So in fact, like, these Cro-Magnon people were more intelligent than us. But it's not like that. Like, if you have correspondence with body mass reduction, then you could explain brain volume reduction with overall body mass reduction. So we need like more evidence or more facts to really make the case. And the other question is, why is this happening? So here's another articles, this from Science, and in this article what it's presented is the possibility that humans have been domesticating themselves. This is called auto-domestication as well. So the following I'm citing from this article. It says, a new study citing genetic evidence from a disorder that in some ways mirrors elements of domestication suggests modern humans domesticated themselves after they split from their extinct relatives, Neanderthals and Denisovans, approximately 600,000 years ago. The study is incredibly impressive, says Richard Wrangham, a biological anthropologist at Harvard University who was not involved in the new work. It's a really beautiful test, he adds, of the long-standing idea that the humans look so different from our primate ancestors precisely because we have become domesticated. Domestication encompasses a whole suite of genetic changes that arise as a species is bred to be friendlier and less aggressive. In dogs and domesticated foxes, for example, many changes are physical: smaller teeth and skulls, floppy ears, and shorter, curlier tails. Those physical changes have all been linked to the fact that domesticated animals have fewer of a certain type of stem cell called neural crest stem cells. So this article now suggests that humans have been domesticating themselves. Auto this is a redundancy because auto means that they are doing it themselves, but what I mean is that this article is very specific in the evidence that it's pointing at. Is pointing at this this study revolves around these special stem cells called neural crest stem cells. So this is more more hard evidence that we can add to this brain volume decrease to make a case, and this case is human domestication. So if we think about human domestication, uh, compared, we ask, what does it mean? What would be the effect of human domestication, like compared to animal domestication? We see the following changes, right? We see that there is um, for example, the brain case here is change. The volume of the brain decreases, and this decrease of 10 to 15% is consistent with domesticated animals. This is also seen in domesticated animals. Like the projection of the snout is also a sign. So in domesticated species, the snout is shorter, and in case of humans, our face are flat or flatter than our ancestors. Um, the tooth size, the jaw projection, all these things um, are side effects of domestication, and these phenotypical changes are reflected in the in the genes, in a genotype, right? So now this article that I'm showing here is contains further evidence of genetic. There's a genetic. They have spotted some genetic parallelism between humans and domesticated animals. This is from researchers from a team of the UB led by Cedric Boeck, ICREA professor at the Department of Catalan Philology and General Linguistics and member of the Institute of Complex Systems of the University of Barcelona, found out new genetic evidence for this evolutionary process. It says this study, published in the Science Journal PLOS ONE, compared the genomes of modern humans to those of several domesticated species and their wild animal type in order to look for overlapping genes that were associated with domestication traits such as docility or gracile physiognomy. The results show a statistically significant number of genes associated with domestications which overlap between domestic animals and modern humans, but not with their wild equals like Neanderthals. So this is a very important research. This is a very important conclusion, and it's mounting evidence that humans have gone through a similar process than domestic animals. So, and you can or we can see this if we compare like wolves with dogs, or you can see it with the case with wild boars and pigs, or you can see it with like the European bison compared to cattle, or the ibex, like these wild goats with domesticated goats, and so on. There are many examples of these domesticated species, and in general, one thing that we see in domesticated species is that they are less aggressive, they look less threatening, and we assume that this is the case also for humans. This has been changes that have been going on, and this is like a good thing that humans are less aggressive than their wild counterparts, but there are also other effects that they are not uh, the effects are not limited to a friendlier stance or a docile behavior. And the reason why we have this self-domestication, by the way, there's a Wikipedia article about that, has to do with farming, right? With a sedentary lifestyle. And here we have a chart from that is depicts the different cultures around the world that have developed farming. And we see here that this goes back to 15,000 years before present. So I think it is interesting to wonder if we had those effects just 15,000 years ago, all this brain size reduction, or it goes further back. And it would be interesting to see also if the rate has been increasing since 15,000 years ago, because this is the time when the first communities left a nomad lifestyle to settle and to grow crops. And this was a process that was parallel in different parts of the world, and it happened not only in Africa or Europe and Asia, but also in America. And we can pinpoint this self-domestication to that event, I think, or it's a good candidate. It's because this change in lifestyle has brought different selection pressures over humans and over the genes. And one thing that is, well, when we think about domesticated animals, the thing that I think about is that you cannot just let an animal that is domesticated in the wild, right? Uh, Domesticated animals develop a dependency on their masters, right? And they cannot live by their own. And this is really an issue when you think about human beings, because then what I'm thinking of is, if we are like domesticated animals, then we cannot like just return to the wild. So if everything is going wrong with society, like again returning to this idiocracy theme, in idiocracy, what happened is that people like with low intellectual profiles were breeding more than intellectual people, like intelligent or prepared people. And this is what leads to this dystopia of this country that is all immersed in this anti-intellectual movement, and it's everything is hyper commercialized. But now what we are seeing is that we have a longer process going through thousands of years of like sedentary lifestyle, and this is then what causes the changes in human behavior and the decrease in brain size. So, but the thing is that if things are going wrong with this society, we are in a path that I think we cannot like simply go back. I think because also currently in our society we have, or in present times we have hunter-gatherer uh, societies, right? We have like these people in, for example, in the Amazon, or the Inuit in the North Pole, in Siberia and Alaska, or the Bushmen in Africa. These are still there are hunter-gatherer societies. So it's also interesting to see what morphological difference there are with this population and the rest, but and the rest of the world. But I would regard them basically as the same as us, and I think they have not been like entirely living in hunting gathering, so they have had some um, influence of their surroundings. But the thing is that I feel that or this evidence will make me think that we cannot just go back to what we had before um, becoming a sedentary society, right? That we cannot just simply go back there, or in fact we can think, even if this is desirable, like if this is really like the optimal lifestyle that people want to have. um, but it's, for me it's important that we see what's wrong, or what's wrong with this society, and we can pinpoint to a process, or um, yes, some events that had led us to where we are now. And I wanted to cite this other article here because this one is talking about, it's a comparison, not this one, but this one, yes, this is a comparison between wolves and domesticated dogs, how they behave, how they behave at how they perform at problem solving tasks. So it says Monique Udell, a researcher with Oregon State University, has found via experimentation that domestic dogs appear to have lost some of their problem solving abilities as a result of their long history with humans. In her paper published in the journal Biology Letters, she describes a study she carried out and offers some theories on why she believes domesticated dogs may have lost some of their natural skills. Udell notes that dogs have long been known to work with people as they go about their lives, in contrast to animals in the wild. One such striking behavior is their tendency to look back at their human companion when faced with a perplexing situation, seemingly asking for help. So this is what we're talking about, domesticated animals, right? They depend on people, and dogs are like that. Dogs, when they face a problem, they will look at their human companion, or the, the nearest person, to look for help. To learn more about this behavior, Udell enlisted the assistance of 10 dogs that live as pets and their owners, 10 that live in shelters, and 10 wolves that have been raised by humans. Each of the animals was presented with a tasty sausage, which they were allowed to sniff but not eat. Instead, the sausage was placed inside a plastic container with a snap-on lid connected to a short length of rope. To open the container, the animals needed to pull on the rope while holding down the container, a task usually deemed relatively easy for animals as smart as dogs and wolves. Udell conducted the experiments in two ways, one where the animal was left alone with the container, the other where there was a human, their owners, standing close by. Udell reports that none of the pet dogs was able to open the container and just one of the shelter dogs was able to do so, but 8 of the 10 wolves succeeded. The presence of a person nearby didn't help much. The same number of wolves succeeded and one pet did so. She notes that all of the dogs from both groups spend a lot more of their time looking at the person than did the wolves. Next, Udell allowed a human to offer encouragement to the dogs. Doing so increased the success rate of the sheltered dogs. 4 of them opened the container, but still just one pet dog was able to do it. The experiment is intriguing, Udell notes, because all of the dogs and wolves were capable of opening the container, but only the wolves were truly motivated to do so, as demonstrated by a much higher level of persistence. The dogs and the others hand appear much more ready to ask for help. So this is enlightening because now this is what I think is going on with our society. We have grown very dependent on each other and on our society, and we are unable to deal with a wildlife or an independent way of living like our ancestors did, or at least this is what is suggested by all this evidence. Although I think we shouldn't like press too hard on that, but I think we have a clearer picture of what's going on. I think what we have recently, all these politicians and demagogues and such, this is not entirely new. We have had this, for example, at the beginning of the 20th century, and also the future looked bleak at that time. But for me, it's interesting to explain what is going on with human society, how human society can go so wrong. The other aspect that I'm interested in is how exactly was the humans were the humans domesticated, because we're talking about self-domestication. Although I have another candidate, because the problem with self-domestication is that it's like a closed loop, like the one that is doing the domestication is the one domesticated, but if your genes are changing, responding to that pressure to self-domesticate, then you will this species will evolve to be domesticated and not to be masters. I don't know if I am making myself clear. Like, you cannot evolve to be domesticated and master at the same time. So I wonder if there is another candidate that we could point at to say this is the force that we have been that is domesticating us, right? And others could say, well, human beings are being divided in two classes, like the masters and the domesticated. This is also an interesting idea, but this one I'm not that sure. Maybe this brings for me it brings this concept depicted in Gattaca or in um, how it's called, Altered Carbon, of these utopian societies. But anyway, I will leave it here because this will be the subject of another video. We will explore at other candidates of self-domestication. So I hope you found this video interesting, and I hope to see you in the next one. This is Cyber Settler signing off.